Cats of Ulthar by H.P. Lovecraft, published in 1920, a Lantern Library retelling. It is said that in Ulthar, no one may kill a cat. This is not merely a saying, but a law, one so old that its origin belongs more to legend than to memory. And yet every person in Ulthar knows why it was written, for in that quiet town, long ago, something happened that bound cats and people together by fear, by reverence, and by justice. The tale begins with a pair of villagers who lived on the very edge of town. They were husband and wife, both thin and cruel, their faces sharp and hard, as though carved from stone. Their neighbors avoided them, for there was something about their eyes, cold, unfeeling, that unsettled all who met them. The couple hated cats, not with the simple dislike of those who prefer other creatures, but with a deep, bitter hatred that seemed to consume them. Perhaps it was the cat's silent grace, their freedom, their mystery. Or perhaps it was nothing more than malice for the sake of malice. Whatever the reason, they despised them. And so, whenever a cat strayed too near their cottage, it never returned. The townsfolk whispered about it in low voices, the soft yowls at night, the sudden vanishings, the silence that followed. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone suspected the truth. But none dared to act. For the couple was feared. Their cruelty was plain enough, and those who spoke against them might well share the fate of the animals. So the people of Ulthar mourned quietly each time a beloved pet disappeared, keeping their anger close to the heart, never daring to speak it aloud. It was in this uneasy time that a caravan came to Ulthar. The travelers were wanderers from the east, robed in garments of bright colors and deep shadows, their wagons painted with strange symbols. Their arrival was like a burst of life into the sleepy town, fires burning in the fields, voices lifted in songs of lands far away. Among them was a boy named Menes, no older than a child, with dark, solemn eyes that seemed to carry the weight of long sorrows. In his arms he carried a small black kitten, his constant companion. Wherever he went, the kitten followed, darting between his feet, curling in his lap, nestling against his chest at night. The boy had no parents. They had been taken from him before the caravan had found him. The kitten was all he had left. He fed it, cradled it, whispered to it as though to a brother. To the boy, this little creature was his world. The townsfolk were drawn to the strangers, as people often are when something new disturbs the stillness of routine. Children gathered to watch the wagons, their eyes wide at the painted horses and glittering ornaments. Adults watched too, more cautious, but no less curious. The travelers spoke with the townsfolk, trading goods and stories, and it was during these conversations that they learned of the grim couple at the edge of Ulthar, and of the cats that had gone missing. They spoke of it in hushed tones, casting glances toward the boy with the black kitten, but the boy heard. He always listened. The next day, as the caravan prepared to leave, the boy wandered through Ulthar with his kitten at his side. He passed along the crooked lanes, the stone houses, the market square where townsfolk sold bread and cloth. And though his lips were silent, his eyes carried a quiet joy, for he had his kitten, and his kitten had him. But as the day waned, the kitten vanished. At first, the boy thought it had strayed into the grass. He called its name, softly at first, then louder, his voice cracking with fear. He searched the lanes, the rooftops, the alleys, asking anyone he met if they had seen it. The townsfolk lowered their eyes and said nothing. The boy's steps carried him to the edge of town, to the crooked little cottage with its shutters closed tight. The air around it seemed heavier than the rest of Ulthar. The boy called again for his kitten, his voice breaking now into sobs. There was no answer, only silence, thick and dreadful. He returned to the caravan empty-handed. When his companions saw his grief, their faces grew grave. The boy fell to the earth, his body trembling with fury and despair, and he lifted his arms to the darkening sky. He began to chant. The words were strange, belonging to no tongue the townsfolk of Ulthar understood. Yet they felt the weight of them, as though the air itself grew tighter, listening. His cries were fierce and unyielding, carrying the sorrow of a child and the power of something far older. The other travelers gathered around him. They too raised their arms, their voices joining in solemn harmony. The firelight flickered across their faces, and their shadows danced long upon the fields. Together they called out to the heavens, to the earth, to powers unseen and unfathomable. The people of Ulthar watched from a distance, afraid to draw near, yet unable to look away. They felt the hair on their necks rise, felt a coldness steal into their bones though the night was still. At last the chanting ceased. The boy fell silent, his eyes wet but steady, as though he had given his grief to something greater than himself. The caravan fires burned low, and the people of Ulthar returned to their homes with unease heavy on their hearts. By morning, the caravan was gone. They had departed in silence, leaving only wheel ruts in the dirt and ashes in the grass. The boy, too, was gone. But Ulthar awoke to another silence. The cats were missing, every single one. From hearth to stable, from rooftop to cellar, they were gone. Panic spread quickly. Children wept, women searched the alleys, men peered into barns and fields. But not a single paw print was found, not a whisker, not a sound. The town seemed empty, hollow without their presence. And yet, when evening fell, the cats returned. They came one by one, slinking into doorways, curling onto familiar steps, leaping to rooftops. Their eyes glimmered with a strange light, and their bodies were sleek and well-fed. They stretched, they purred, they twined around their master's legs as if nothing had happened. But there was something different in their gaze, a knowing, a secret satisfaction. Not a single cat was missing. The townsfolk rejoiced, yet unease lingered. For though the cats returned, something else had changed. At the edge of town, the grim little cottage was quiet. No smoke rose from the chimney. No voices carried through the walls. Its shutters hung loose, its door swung crooked. When the people finally dared to enter, they found only silence. The couple was gone. No one ever saw them again. What passed within those walls that night, no living soul can say. But the people of Ulthar did not question it. They only remembered the boy's grief, the caravan's chant, and the strange satisfaction in the eyes of their cats. From that day onward, Ulthar kept a law that remains even now. In Ulthar, no one may kill a cat.